Hey, this is Shanti with A Healing Intermission, and I wanted to talk a little bit today about how to change a negative thought into a positive one. And I've been thinking a lot about this lately because I know over the last 10 years, especially since The Secret has come out, like there's just been this explosion of information and consciousness. I'm getting a little distracted because I have a bee that's crawling on me now. Hi, bee baby. Let's see, yeah. I don't really get scared when they crawl. I'm just kind of mindful, like it's on my finger right now. Okay, it flew away. So over the past 10 years, there's just been this expansion of human consciousness in terms of more and more people being aware of the fact that we create our realities with our thoughts and with our words. And there has been also this explosion of information, like all of these different people YouTubing information about this and blogging, and it's just everywhere, even in common conversation, people are more likely to talk about, not wanting to be bothered with negativity and, trying to keep it positive. But I know for me, like a lot of these concepts I grew up with, like this is the stuff that my parents taught me, like at 2 and 3. This is the stuff, like I don't want to say that I didn't want to know as a child, but like I just always thought we were the weird family, and I knew these things and I practiced them at home, but I kept it on the low too. But even though my parents taught me these concepts, like I didn't necessarily grow up mastering them. Like I knew what it meant to be a manifester when I was a child. I knew what it meant to manifest things. I had participated in and seen my own manifestations as a child. But in terms of like what it takes to deliberately manifest, that was just really elusive to me for a long time. And I would struggle with how do I make certain things happen. Certain desires seemed kind of effortless, and I understood the science behind it, because we live in a vibratory universe and our lives are created by our vibrations. But even though I knew this intellectually, like there was still some type of disconnect when it came to being able to manifest certain things in my life. And I would get frustrated sometimes too with people who, would just kind of make it seem like it was just so easy. Just think positive. It's like, yeah, but how do you think positive when, you're late on your rent, or, your car just broke down, or whatever the case may be? We've all been through it. But I feel like I figured it out. Like I figured out how to change specific thoughts and specific thought patterns, negative ones, into, or just to change them in such a way where they were no longer manifesting the same results. So I have an example of this. I remember several years ago, I was working at like a kind of like a chiropractor's office doing massage, and I did really well while I was there, and people really liked me, and they always talked about it. But I remember I used to get really, really mad when people wouldn't tip, because I felt like it was a principle type of thing. Like, why would you come in and get this work done and not tip me? And I would get really, really mad. Like, of course, I would never say anything to anybody about it, but on the inside, I would just be like, how rude. And I knew that that wasn't a positive place for me to be inside of myself, because it would stop the flow of money, which it did. Like, the tips that I was getting started to slow down because I would get so incensed when people wouldn't tip. So I remember getting to the point where I was just like, okay, Shanti, you know this is dumb, and you know you're just going to block your own blessings by staying in this irritated place, this irritated vibration. So what I did was I created an affirmation to address those feelings whenever they came up. And the affirmation that I came up with at the time was, life works in my favor always and in all ways. And I specifically chose not to focus on the money, because I knew that the more focus that I gave to money or the lack of money, it was just going to continue to build up the blockage. So when I would have a massage client, you know, at this chiropractor's office or whatever, and let me just say this too, because I don't want to sound like just a complete asshole. I was also in a place, living from a place of desperation or lack, or feeling like I didn't have enough. So that was adding to the vibration as well, you know, between the fear of not having enough and the irritation that came from people not tipping. Like, I was just siphoning off my blessings. So came up with this affirmation, life works in my favor always and in all ways, because what I wanted to affirm and reaffirm was that it doesn't matter what happens in my life. It could look like a total L, you know, but everything that happens to me works for my benefit if I claim that, you know. So I started saying this, and I would say it, you know, like, again, if I would have a client that wouldn't tip or whatever, and it was kind of like a soothing affirmation for me as well. Just like, oh, don't worry about it. Life works in my favor always and in all ways. You're going to get what you need. And this is the technique part of it. This is the most important part in terms of switching the vibration. So not only would I say this affirmation when somebody didn't tip me, but I would also say the affirmation when I would have little experiences that affirm that life worked in my favor always and in all ways. You know, like, it could be something as simple as I happen to find $1, you know, on the ground. Life works in my favor always and in all ways. You know, I don't know, somebody gave me something for free. Life works in my favor always and in all ways. And the more that I would affirm that from a place of joy, because something had just happened that was in my favor, the more it would begin to happen. Life works in my favor always and in all ways. And soon, like, I stayed at that job long enough to see my tips turn around. I got bees everywhere right now. I'm so glad that I'm not afraid of them. Hello, babies. Hello, babies. They just caused me to be very, very, like, mindful. But I know that's my mama. Yes. So, yeah. I would just start to notice that I would get more of what I wanted and more of what I needed every time that I would repeat that affirmation. And so I would try it with other affirmations as well, and again, the trick is when whatever you're affirming happens, you have to be very, very kind of cognizant and aware. I'm just the bee magnet right now. Hello, babies. I'm trying to do a video, y'all. I'm trying to do a video, babies. But the more that you say it, y'all, I'm so distracted. Because they really are like all over me. And in a minute, I'm going to end this because it is like quite distracting. But yeah, you got to affirm it when it happens. That's how you change the thought. You don't necessarily just focus on it when the opposite happens. You focus on it when what you want happens, and you got to be just really, really aware. Like when you're a magnet for money, if you find a nickel on the ground, that's the time to affirm that. I'm a magnet for money. I give thanks for that. I'm a magnet for money. You find a penny on the ground, I'm a magnet for money. Yes, universe. Especially when you throw that excitement behind it, because then it's like, oh, that's that high vibratory energy, that is excitement and that enthusiasm, and the universe responds to that and says, okay. It's just like saying more, please. Anytime you have a deep and passionate energy about something, whether it be anger or whether it be, joy or whatever it is that you're feeling, you're really telling the universe, more please. I want more of whatever made me feel this way. So again, I just wanted to come on and talk a little bit about this, to give some practical application to the concept of changing our minds and changing our thoughts. Because if you're already stuck in a negative loop, it's hard to get out of, and it can be really frustrating to hear people tell you things like, oh, just be positive. And you're like, but I got all this shit that I've manifested as a result of my thinking. And I feel a ways about it. It's hard to get out of. I feel a ways, and that's natural. That's understandable. But our minds are computers. We are computers. We're so much more. But the point that I'm making in saying that we're computers is that we're programmable. And the thing is, we typically, most people allow themselves to be programmed by people and things and thoughts and opinions outside of themselves, rather than doing the programming on their own. But this is just one tip about how to start that programming effectively. How to make it really, really work for you. You got to affirm it in the moment. You got to give gratitude in the moment when you see the manifestation of your affirmation. That's how you change a negative thought pattern, so that you no longer experience the manifestations that are associated with it. So I hope you all have a beautiful day. It is absolutely gorgeous out here. I know you can tell it's hot because you can see the sweat dripping off of my forehead. I so want to show you these bees. Can y'all see these bees on my hand just crawling around? Y'all see these bees? I don't know if y'all can see these babies. They are just so intrigued. And I'm like, I love you, and I'm glad that we have this type of relationship, y'all, but I gotta go. It's a bunch of y'all out here. I love you. I love you, I do, but I gotta go, y'all. You tickling my fingers and everything. So, yeah. Peace, good people. Talk to y'all later. Stay well.